So, hello. Thank you for joining us again. We are back. It has been probably about what, 2, 3 months now? And we are continuing the conversation on colorism. This time we are having a joint conversation with men and women, and we're going to talk about some of the intersectionality between that and bring in some current events. A lot has been going on in the country, and colorism has a lot to do with that. So let's get to it. The first question I'm going to ask everyone is introduce yourselves first. Let's start there. Latoya.
Hi, I am Latoya.
With the big smile.
Yes.
Oh, was I supposed to say something?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm Brandon Williams.
I'm Monique Sample.
I'm Tion Wilson.
Beverly Winter.
All right. So the first question I'm going to ask you guys is, and I say you guys, I don't mean specifically everyone being guys. It's a colloquialism. I'm from the North. Um, is colorism still a thing, or do you feel like it's a thing of the past?
It is.
It is still a thing?
Yes, it is. Big time.
Agreed.
Okay. You want to elaborate on that?
It is mainly like I do want to have a lot of kids. If people don't know,
He got a whole football
lot of-
team, y'all.
yeah, I do.
I'm just playing.
And like even like so when with my kids, and I do a lot of stuff with other kids too. So you'll hear certain conversations, and for the most part, kids truly believe your color has something to do with your status or how successful you are, or do you look better because you're light skinned, you're dark, so you look a little more like you can play, like you're better at sports. So it's a bunch of stuff that you wouldn't expect kids to pick up on
Yeah.
at that age, as teenagers. That, of course, was happening back in the day. So, yes, it's real, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we still see it a lot in the media. I kind of carried this conversation on with some of my interns that I have, and they kind of brought up that you have people, stars that are known for their looks, like their name is based on their look. So there's a artist out named Mulatto, and she's very light skinned. There's another artist, light skinned Keisha. So you have people that are identifying by their color, and I'm not sure that it's the best portrayal, or I'm not sure that it's uplifting and validating for other people, because it's kind of saying, they don't explicitly come out and say this, but the fact that you're highlighting it kind of gives the connotation that maybe you think that makes you stand out, or that makes you more superior because you're light skinned Keisha. You know, does that mean you're
Gotcha.
better, or
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a good point. Latoya, you had said that.
Yeah, I absolutely think that it is still a thing. I see it even in the workplace, that oftentimes they feel more comfortable talking to or working with a person of a lighter complexion. Oftentimes, they just automatically assume things about a darker skinned individual. Most of the time, they are the administrative team, they're the help. And so, just in years of being in the workplace and kind of noticing how people will respond to me, and then having a different response to another person that's darker, even in hiring practices, that when it comes down to the two, they would go with the lighter choice.
Okay.
I say I see that a lot in the media. If they're going to show a representation, if that's what they want to call it, of a black person, it's somebody light skinned with, curly hair. And I don't think that, well, that's not the majority of black people, but they'll consider it, oh, well, we showed a black person, but they're half white. So I don't see why they can't say, well, that's a white person.
Right. Right. I had a conversation with some colleagues today on a conference, and we were talking about diversity and equity, inclusion, and we were looking at our individual universities' websites and seeing what is portrayed to the world about our university. And for some of the universities, it was intentional in who they chose to represent on their website. Whereas I feel like VCU, because they're already a very diverse campus, they put out a casting call and say, anyone come. We don't care who you are, what you look like, we want to see you. And we want to use you on our website. And they will go around taking pictures of everyone, doesn't matter what they look like. Whereas other campuses are they're intentional about who they select, and they go through the campus sort of Rolodex and say, we need this person because they have a certain look. They are more ethnic looking. They are of a darker complexion. They have natural hair. We want to see those things, but we also, for the front page, need someone who is of a lighter complexion, because they feel like it's more palpable, like people can swallow it better, which is, it just seemed not like a new idea to me, but it just seemed crazy to think that in 2021 we're still doing that. How do you all think that the intersection between gender and skin tone plays a part in colorism? Do you feel like it's worse for women more than it is for men?
I think that the dark skinned male is still public enemy number one. And that's unfortunate. But I believe that that's always that fear of, you see a dark skinned male, they're the usual suspect. Even, when you read the newspaper or looking at the news, they are going to describe that dark skinned male versus even if it's a black woman, it's just, a female of a certain age.
Right.
So it absolutely plays a lot into it. I think the darker skinned male has always that target on the back, and just they're the enemy to some, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would second that. I think for the female side, it's more of a beauty type thing. So a lot of times they would see a darker female and think she's not beautiful, but at the same time they would mimic a lot of stuff that she do, which is crazy in itself. But as she said, with the male, the darker you are more of you're the threat. So if you have like the light skin, and it's more likely, let's grab him. The darker one, because he's naturally, I guess, he's dark, he's like light, I don't know, that they will naturally assume that, like she said, he's the one that did it.
I wonder if the ladies think that I've had the experience where ladies seem to prefer a darker skinned male, like so black women seem to prefer a darker skinned male, just because I don't know if they perceive them as being more manly or more of a protector, or I don't know. Has anybody else had that kind of experience?
I mean, I would say that again, just with even within our own culture, we have a tendency to create the lighter skinned male as the pretty one, and so they're the one that has the curly hair and the light eyes, and I think that it is true that the darker male, women kind of gravitate to, because they feel, like they're the man's man, whereas the lighter skin, they just don't feel as secure with that man. It's
I guess I've always heard that the lighter skinned guys are considered like the pretty boys and soft, right? And,
right. That's it.
whereas someone of a darker complexion is, I don't know, a little bit more manly. I don't know if, I think in my preference, I would choose someone who is darker than I am. I don't know why, but that is what I would find attractive. Not to say that I would negate anyone else, because there's other connections that you can have, but I think solely based off of appearance, I would be more attracted to someone who's of a darker complexion.
I think for what you said, if you do it the other way,
Right.
I know for myself, for when it comes to women, females, black females, I know for me, and I know a lot of the guys I know, the redder she is, the more she's perceived as.
Say red.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm like,
you're pretty red.
no,
No, well, you know,
we're
the
not
lighter,
doing
I'm
that.
sorry. But the lighter the female, she is kind of sometimes perceived as more um, upkeep. She's more up.
High maintenance.
Yeah, high maintenance. So
Right.
it's one of those.
Bougie. I
yeah.
heard it all. Go ahead, Tia.
But then you
say
see,
it. I heard it.
but they're more of the like, and even for myself, I'll be honest. If I was going out with a lighter skinned girl, the date would be different. Whether I would naturally perceive, if she's darker, we can go out and do something that's more aggressive. We can go karting and stuff like that. I know that's a stupid misconception, but that's just it's kind of
Right.
how you
But it's
kinda
also
see
his
it.
experience. You know,
Yeah,
his
it's-
experiences with women. You know,
Yeah, they're
and
more the lights are more like high maintenance. And no, I'm not doing that. Where the dark one's more like, I don't want to do that. I want to go here and go and I'm gonna eat and have fun. So
interesting.
I want to eat. I just don't want to ride roller coasters. And I don't want to put a helmet on because I don't want to get my hair messed up. And it's okay. I'm still a good person.
Brandon, from your experience, what would you have to say?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the lighter skinned women do get kind of they're perceived as more beautiful, and I think that's been throughout history. But I do think light skinned women experience a lot of prejudice from darker skinned women, from all types of black people, basically, because some of them, all of them are not like that, and some of them, don't like that they are perceived a certain way before people get to know them, and so they'll say to you, that people were mean to them because they thought that they were uppity or they thought that they were a certain way, and they're not like that, and they didn't take the time to get to know them, but just kind of prejudged them because of their skin color and were mean to them. Was it jealousy? I don't know. But they will say that they called them names or pulled their hair. I don't know.
Right.
That
That's
just
good.
didn't give them the time to show who they really were.
Yeah. Now, each of you have children. How do you have this conversation with your children about colorism and how it impacts their own lives? And then how do you have that conversation about the color of their skin impacting the rest of the world?
I'll say I have one daughter, and I've always told her, she is who she is because she is who she is. Her skin tone doesn't determine whether she's smart or not smart because, smart people come in all shades.
Right.
You walk through a hospital and a surgeon could be, as they say, as dark as midnight, but he still has a brain that's better than,
Right.
some light-skinned people. So we've had that conversation, and my daughter's light-skinned. She's her father's color. And she has gotten the comments, well, are you mixed? Are you? And I'm like, why does she have to be mixed? Her daddy's black. Her mama's black. She's black.
Right.
She is who she is. And I have that same conversation, with any young lady that I see, just encourage them that, your skin tone doesn't determine your intellect or how you carry yourself.
Right.
And I've been around the high maintenance on both sides, the light and dark. So I just encourage her to be who she is as a person and, not either make herself feel more than or less than because of her skin tone.
That's good.
Yeah, my kids are kind of young. So I have a 6 and a 10-month-old. But we still try to ingrain that, whatever shade you are is okay.
Right.
So my daughter, the youngest, is lighter than both my wife and I, and my son is darker than both my wife and I. So it's funny because my son when she was first born, he kept calling her Caucasian. He's trying to say Caucasian,
Caucasian.
but he calls her Caucasian. We just kept correcting him, saying no, like, black people come in all different shapes and colors. She's black. Your sister's
Right.
black, and we just kept correcting him, And I think he finally got it. He stopped calling her Caucasian, but we still try to. And with her, we bought her the blackest doll that we could find, and just she doesn't know anything
Right.
about that,
Yeah.
but it's just the little things that we try to like do, just to prepare her and just to prepare both of them, so we just to keep having that conversation with him. He asks questions. We're still trying to get him to understand race first of all,
Right.
and so that we can then move to colorism. But
Yeah.
it's a work in progress. I think he asked like one of his administrators at school. She's white. I think he called her pink, and he asked her why she had a black baby.
Oh.
And I think like her husband is like Hispanic or something like that. So it's just trying to address it as it comes with
Right.
him. I mean, kids say whatever they want, and and so you got to try to come behind them. But yeah, it's just an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Well, I have 5 children. So I have 17, 16, soon to be 15, and 2 13s that'll be 14 in 2 months. So they all right at that teenage age where they're kind of in it. And then all of my children are different complexions. Like my daughter's light, she's on the lighter side, and I have a son that's on the dark side, and everywhere in between. And so for them, one of the things I stress to them is kind of 2 ways. One way I tell them is, you can't base yourself on something you can't control. So you don't pick what skin tone you are. You don't pick your height. You don't pick any of that. That's given to you when when God helped us produce you. So that's something you can't control. But you also have to understand that other people sometimes would judge you based on that. So when you look at other people, don't pay attention to how they look. They need help. If they talk to you, talk back. Speak to them. Be nice to everybody. Treat everybody the same. But also be mindful that, like for my oldest, he's lighter, but he's a bigger kid. So I tell him you can't get away with some stuff your friends do. We live in a predominantly, white area, so you can't get away with that stuff. So don't expect to go somewhere and be seen the same way. Mm-hmm. And he started to experience that a while ago. And then for another son, he's on the darker side, and he went through a phase where he saw his darkness as it wasn't nice. But as he grew into his teenage years, he got kind of what you said, where the girls were, oh, I like him. This is a dark kid with the muscle. So,
Right.
And now he see it as, oh, I'm a prince. I'm this and that. So that's kind of how he carries himself. But I also teach him too. Yeah, they might find you attractive, but still you have to be mindful.
Right.
So you're not riding down the street with the windows down, music blasting. We don't do that. You're not just going to be out with whoever. You still have to pay attention to how the world perceive you, and I also show them a lot. So Every day when they're home, we're watching something educational. A lot of time it always end up some dealing with race or something like that, so they can be aware of what's going around them. And they ask their typical question like, "That's stupid." I'm like, "Yeah, it is, but unfortunately, that's the world."
Right.
So
Yeah, I have 2 children. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I have a 20-year-old son.
Oh, you don't look like you have
yeah,
a 20.
you don't look
20
like
years.
Oh, thanks. We rehearsed. No, I'm kidding. But my son is lighter, and my daughter is she's a brown shade. And for a long time, she felt like she would call herself dark skin. And it would be like, but I'm dark and you're light. And like there was no in between for her. It's like, there's dark and then there's light. Her brother and I were light and she was dark, and she couldn't understand that. And so just in teaching her and showing her the different family members and the different ways that they looked, and just reminding her that your shade doesn't mean anything to me, and it doesn't mean anything to those that love you. We love you because of who you are. And, at some point she kind of grew out of that, but it's still in her mind because there are still people that bring it out. So people are always like, oh, well, you must look like your dad, because she's darker than her mom. And it's like, it's not, like, why does that have to be a thing? Like, why do we have to talk about that? And
Right.
then even for my son, he's lighter, and, maybe he's not always perceived as the threat, but he's still black. And that's always for sure. And so just in having those conversations over and over again about how, yeah, they may like you while you're playing basketball, or they may like you while you're doing this and you're doing that, but they always know that you're black. And so there are things that you are doing that, and they still will think that you're wrong. Like, it could be, you could be doing the right thing and you still be seen as wrong. You will always be seen as the usual suspect because you're still a black male. And there's no easy way to have those conversations on and on and on. And so I'm praying for you as you go into that.
Yeah.
But it is hard and it's exhausting. And Tiana, I'm sure you understand, especially as they're growing up in their teenage years and they're seeing everything that's going on. It's tough to keep having to explain that and prepare them for what could be. And so the conversation of colorism, they understand it differently because they experience differently than what maybe I did. And so it looks different now, but still pointing it out but that's what it is.
Right.
But that's why they did that.
Yeah.
And, sometimes they're like, are you really, Mom? And I'm like, but that's what it is.
Yeah. So I thank you for leading into that, because that goes to my next question to you all. How do you have those conversations? Especially for someone with younger kids, like Brandon, and someone who's watching. How do you start to have those conversations? What's an appropriate time or age, especially with everything that's going on, to have those conversations? I mean, we've seen young kids sadly being murdered holding toys and perceived as a threat. So at what age do you have that conversation with your kids to say, here's what is appropriate or not appropriate, or what you can do and can't do in public?
First, pray.
Yeah.
First, pray. Let me just say that. There's no real, I can't tell you at what age. I just know that we talked about it. We talked about it more once he started working, got his license, because those were times that for sure we wouldn't be together.
Gotcha.
As the mom, I was like, well, I can protect him as much as I can while he's younger, because we're going to be together. I'm going to be driving him places and, things like that. It was once he started to venture out on his own that we really had to sit down and have the conversations and have demonstrations of, here's what you do if you get pulled over by the police. Here's what you do, if and when this happens. And even for my daughter, because we can't take for granted that because she's a girl that she won't experience these things.
Absolutely.
Having those conversations, we're able to have them as we are seeing things being played out on TV. They listen to the news, they hear the news, they're talking about it at school, we talk about it at home. And honestly, it's difficult. Like, there's no easy way, there's not a script that I can give about how to do it, but it has to be done.
Yeah.
And, I have to continue to remind them that even though it may not always feel like it, but they do matter. They matter to me. They matter to their grandparents. They matter.
Right.
And so it's hard to reconcile when I say that at home and then they go out and
They don't see that.
right.
Yeah.
I think also in school, because a lot of things, even in kindergarten, goes on in school, and you have to explain to your child, well, why doesn't somebody want to play with you? Or, they're going to play with you, and their parents say, no, no, let's go over here. If they're on a playground, I don't even know if they
Right.
do playgrounds anymore. But you have to explain to them sometimes, not everyone is going to like you, and that's okay. We as your family love you. You love you, for yourself, who you are, and you just try to explain to them, well, some people think differently than you do. It may not be right, but they do,
Right.
and you just don't let their opinion matter to you more than your
Own opinion
opinion
of yourself.
or who we encourage you to be.
Yeah, that's good. TM.
Well, I always take the approach with my kids as I'd rather you hate me now and love me when you understand, right? So so at any age, I'm talking to them, right? I'm like, I'm here to take care of you and protect. I'm here to take care of you, but I'm protect you number one. That's first and foremost. So I'm at least try to prepare you for what you're gonna face.
Right.
So if you're doing something and that's a teaching moment, then I'm gonna take that moment. And of course they do their, oh, you talking again. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm gonna talk some more. We're
Right.
gonna talk some more. And I get it. And I'm like, all right, tell me what I just said.
Right.
And once they can bring it back to me, then it's like, okay. And then whenever if we're driving somewhere or we're somewhere, like my son just had an incident where he went to the store and he was approached by a guy, you parked the wrong way, and he wouldn't let up. Luckily I wasn't there, I asked him, I said, well, what did you do? He said, I just froze. And that was a teaching moment.
Right.
And he was like, but I didn't know, should I move the car or not? And I'm like, well, let me break down to you what happened and what to do in the next event.
Right.
But I felt like I failed him because I didn't prepare him for that, right? So as a parent, the only thing I can do is teach him every chance I get as much as I can,
Right.
so that when he's out in the world and they have their own families, they understand I need to prepare them the same way my dad prepared us. And if it doesn't, if they don't do anything else, hate me now, but
Right.
you'll love me later when you in that situation, prepare for it.
And you can't predict every scenario or situation they might encounter. Some things that seemingly seem like a just easy approach or something that wouldn't matter, like parking a car, rub somebody the wrong way, and they take that as a moment to puff their chest and put forth whatever superiority complex they feel like they have, and push that on to others. Did you want to add anything to this, or
They're so young. I think right now we just kind of take things as they come, because there's a balance between preparing them and like spoiling things for them, spoiling life for them. So with them being so young, I just want them to enjoy life as much as they can, and as things come, we'll kind of address it. And then when I feel like they're old enough to have the conversation and get it, take something from it and learn from it, then we'll approach it that way. But
yeah?
yeah.
How do we have honest conversation and transparent conversation about colorism, especially in the church, but then also outside of the church, within our offices, within, school, with our families?
I say you just talk about it.
Yeah.
Some people may realize they're doing it and don't care, and some people just don't realize they're doing it and may adjust. But I can't be in an uncomfortable environment.
Yeah.
So we're going to have the conversation, and if nothing else, I'm going to get it off my chest, and you can do with it whatever you choose to. But and it may be that I may be perceiving it wrong. So it's just a matter of having the conversation. You don't have to be blatant, but you can come around to, well, why did you do so and so, or what did you think about so and so, and then just have that conversation.
Do you feel like it's different within your family than with maybe your colleagues at work?
As in having a conversation.
Yeah.
As a family, nothing's off the books.
Okay. That's good.
It's open conversation. Whenever we get together, it's whatever. That's we just talk.
Yeah.
Colleagues, I work with a good group, so we have all kinds of conversations too.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I've worked in different environments, so working in corporate America, these conversations couldn't happen without me feeling like I was going to be retaliated against or seen as the problem or the angry black woman. In obviously a setting of higher education, everyone's learning. They are actively trying to understand, get a greater knowledge for people and for the students that they serve. So having these conversations happen more often than I would think it would happen. But anyone else want to chime in?
So, so I think now, as of late, the conversations at work and professional environments have been a bit more acceptable. People are willing to have it because they all want to do the right thing. So, you know, diversity and equity and inclusion, like those are buzzwords, right? So everybody wants to talk about that. Everybody wants to have a statement about that. So I think that having those conversations in the workplace, they're happening. I have been having them probably every week for the past couple of years, and quite frankly, I don't want to keep talking about it. I can't explain it to you any other way.
Right.
But what I will say, I think I have a different thought about it, even with the families. I think the family is the hardest part. That's the hardest place to have the conversation. So as much as that is supposed to be our safe space, a lot of the issues that we have are from our family. And so it's hard to go back to those hurtful places and try to heal and talk.
Right.
And so it's oftentimes easier for us to have conversations outside of our family, at work or in social circles, because the connection is different. And so I can tell you what you said bothered me, or
Right.
this was hurtful, and here's why it was hurtful, and I'd like for you not to ever to do that again. We can say
Right.
that. But when we're at home or when we're with our family, it's hard to look your great aunt in the face and say, you hurt my feelings when you said that I was this. That's difficult.
Right.
And that's why it doesn't happen. And so I think a lot of times we then take that anger and frustration and we project that onto these other folks that, Brandon he doesn't know me. He doesn't know my background, but I didn't came over here and I didn't given him all this energy.
Right.
Because I've been walking around with this because I can't do it at home.
Yeah.
And so we would like to think that family is where we should be able to talk, but it's not. And so I think that what we need to work towards now is, starting that at home and opening up those conversations and creating those spaces and times to be able to hear and receive that this is what you said that hurt me. And then that way when we do go out and we are talking, we're coming at it from a different way. And so I think that just in somebody being brave enough to say, by the way, that hurt me. Even though it was 10 years ago, I'm 41, but I still remember what you said to me when I was 10.
Right.
And, I want you to know how that bothered me. And I think that we're at a place now, I believe, that we're slowly doing that, but it's definitely a process.
Yeah. Sion?
Well, I think so. At work I've been, I guess, blessed to say lately I haven't really had that problem, right? Mainly because there's so much work that
That's just the focus.
yeah, we really don't have time.
Right.
But I've had times where you at work and they ask, well, how did you get that position? And you're looking like, I earned it. That's how I got it.
Right.
But I'm very quick to be direct, quick to the point, and keep moving. I got it, I earned it. That's why, and keep going. You know, that's kind of how I approach it. As far as work with family, in my home, I don't care who you are, mom, grandma, I don't care who you are. You're in my home. You subject to whatever I say. It's my house. Now, and in someone else's home, then it's different because it's their home, you know. And if it's something that I feel uncomfortable, then I'll just leave. And later on, we had the conversation of why. Like, why did you just leave? Well, remember we had this, I was having that conversation. That's something that I want my kids around. You remember how you always out there doing this? Oh, that's what we do. No, that's not what we do. That's what you do. I'm not going, well, all black people do. No, all black people don't do that.
Right.
All right. And I will address it then, but I'm not going to make a big scene. Unless you're in my house, then it's leave in the store. And so it's in my home, I'm going to say what I want to say. If you don't like it, okay, the door's right there. If I'm in your home, then I have to respect.
But would you
the
be
boundaries.
open to somebody saying, that bothered me when you said that, when you threw me out?
Right.
Yeah. And so yeah, I would be. I would
Because
be
I think
completely open.
that's the key. Like, you know, I heard you say, if you're in my house, I'm gonna say what I want to say. But that could be the exact thing that hurt somebody. When they walk away, they're walking away hurt.
Right.
And they felt like because you said, this is my house and I'm gonna say what I want to say, that they couldn't come back to you and say, yo, Tion, wait.
Well, yeah. Let me spend. I'm gonna be mindful who in my home, right? So I'm not gonna intentionally say something that would disrespect someone. But at the same, what I mean by that is, if you always in my home, and I know it's something that might bother, I'm not gonna go there. That's still, I'm gonna respect you as a person.
Right.
But let's say the same example, true story. Someone come to my house and I said, don't drink. You know, use this, and you waste it. Get out. You knew the rule. Well, that made me mad. Well, you knew the rule, right? I told you up front, certain things I don't tolerate. You're not gonna smoke in my house.
Right.
You're not gonna do certain things.
Right.
So if you cross that line, it's a quick, okay, look, I don't want my kids seeing that, being
You gotta
around
go.
it. And so to keep this moving along, can you go ahead and leave? You know?
Okay, but let me bring it back to, so earlier in this conversation, you used the term red.
Okay.
So if I'm at your house, we're having a conversation,
Right.
and you refer to me as red,
Okay.
we're in your house, so you say what you want to say, whatever. But that bothers me.
Then I'm gonna apologize to you.
So I can
Yeah.
come back to you. You're open to me coming back and being like, Tion. Now I know I was joking about it earlier, but in
Yeah.
real life I don't like that. And I've never liked when a man always referred to me as red, because I'm
Right.
like, first of all, I have a name. I'm not a color. Like, all of that bothers me. So right.
These are
but you
facts.
know
Right. I mean,
and I would, you know, in my younger days, I did not say it that nicely.
you know, we ain't never all been saved, you know.
Right.
We had a
So-
pass. We had a pass.
So, you know, for me to come back and say, please don't use that term, that bothers me. It's disrespectful, you know, whatever my reasons are. But that's what I mean. So when I say, like, being at home, why people don't talk about it at home is kind of that exchange. Like, we get that this is your house and you say what you want, you know, what you say goes, and that's fine. But it's those unintentional things that are said that hurt.
And
And we get hung up on that, and we can't come back.
And I think, first I apologize for saying red. I didn't know you didn't like that. But I think something that Beverly said, you have to talk about it, right? So if you never tell me, right, then I can't
Correct.
correct it. I can't ask you, well, what about, I can't learn from it.
Right.
So if I did something and you came to me and said, I didn't like that, okay, I'm going to take that serious because I offended you, so I need to know, right? Because I've net friendships they die because people don't talk.
Right.
So if you said, I don't like that, then not only is that something I wouldn't do again, that's something I would make sure everybody else know. No, we're not going to offend each other,
Right.
and intention. If it's something like your football team I don't like, then you just got to suffer. We just go.
But I
as
think
far
to
as-
your
yeah,
point,
I
that
definitely, we have to talk and address it.
I think that's how we start to really heal and to bring about true change, is by having these uncomfortable conversations we have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Right.
And that's in all facets of our lives. We can never grow and never learn from our mistakes or from our past if we're not uncomfortable. And honestly, the past year and a half has been uncomfortable for us, for everybody. And we've seen the discomfort, but how do we address it? What are some concrete tactics and ways that we can say, you know what, we're done with this. We're done having the conversation and trying to re-educate, but we know you need the education. We're done feeling like we're constantly repeating ourselves, but we know that repetition sticks. So what are some concrete ways that you guys can think of that can help towards eradicating colorism, anti-blackness, white supremacy, all of it, any and all of it?
I think it's conversation because the generation of past, they didn't, there's just some things you just don't talk about, or the what goes on in our house stays in our house.
Yeah.
This younger generation, because information is so prevalent, it's not who has a TV knows everything now. Everybody has every information.
Right.
So they're talking. My nieces are always talking. My nephews are always talking. And you have to listen to what they're saying and then give them understanding because they're understanding it from their perspective. So sometimes you have to educate them on a different perspective, and even them educating on you, okay, we need to be more open about this. Or they're
Right.
always like, why didn't you tell me you did that growing up? Besides the fact that it's none of your business.
Right.
We'll educate you on, the whole process of Miss America if you need to know that. Or, why is, if somebody black, then they're figuring it, oh, that's just a token person they picked for the moment.
Right.
And then next year, what are we going to do next year? Are you going to see that many black people in commercials? Or is it just going to be a wave?
Right.
A lot of times I just feel like it's a wave. So I think it's just constant conversation.
Yeah.
You don't have to be mean about it. You don't have to assert yourself about it, but just to help people recognize I'm here and I value myself and I value my position and the things I have to contribute.
Yeah. Anyone else? Brandon?
Yeah, so I had this conversation with my interns yesterday as well, and kind of like we came with up with two approaches. So one approach is for us as black people to get educated and to infiltrate the system, and then try to put ourselves forward in that system. So we get hired as the police, we get hired as the judges or elected as the judges or whatever, and then we put, people, white people, Jewish people are doing this themselves. They're putting their own people up under them and
Right.
giving them those opportunities.
Yep.
We have to get at the top in order to do that. The other approach, so one of my other interns said, we just need to leave the system and we just need to establish our own system. So we need to go establish our own neighborhoods or our own, I don't know if you heard about in Georgia, these groups of families bought land, and they're gonna set up their own system.
Right.
I don't know the right answer. I think both can be done, and I think both can have some positive outcomes. I also want to see maybe y'all, we can all get together and write a book, write a children's book so we can get it to the kids when they're younger about colorism, about racism or whatever, and it can be for little black people, little black children, and we can do a racism book that kind of is geared towards white children to learn, to teach them to be more accepting and affirming and validating of people who are different from them.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know.
I think the point you made that kind of stuck out to me was about creating our own system, and it's not something new. It's a concept that existed at one point. As soon as those who were enslaved were free, so to speak. That's all they could do, was create their own system, because they weren't wanted in the one that existed within the white community.
So like with Tulsa, we saw what happened
Right.
with that.
Right.
Right.
So we have to be mindful of that. How do we protect that system
Right.
once we get it up and running? I mean, all these solutions going to take years and years.
Absolutely.
None of them are quick.
Yeah, I don't think there is one solution or any solution that's going to happen overnight, so to speak. We can put laws and practices into place, but until we get to the root of the issue, so the foundation, if the foundation is tainted, then building something on top of that doesn't mean it's going to fix anything, because the root of it is still broken and tainted. So even when we think about the police force, we think about, everyone is referring to, oh, this is one bad apple in a tree. Well, the tree itself, the force, was built off of hunting and finding slaves, imprisoning them to do work, to do labor, and getting them on silly things. Oh, you spit a piece of gum out, you're going to jail. That was a legit reason to arrest them in order to enslave them again. So if we can't fix the foundation of that, then yeah, the whole tree is tainted, and there are no good apples.
I think so. I think a little different, right? I think a perfect example of a way to fix it is exactly what Stacey Abrams just did, right? And what she did was, you saw how they did her when she ran, and what she decided to do was, okay, you got me, so I'm going to change the whole system on you.
Right.
So what she did was educate, right? She became a part of the system. She put changes in place for the system, and then we saw what happened.
Right.
Now, of course, they go back and do something, but that's when you go to like Michelle and Barack said, okay, they did this. Now you keep doing what you're doing,
it.
and you go and take the next step. So for me, I think another way is when you look at, it was an episode on Fresh Prince. I'm pretty sure everybody watched that, where Will was going through this whole thing about being a part of the movement and protesting.
Right. Yeah.
And he challenged Uncle Phil.
Yeah.
And Uncle Phil told him, so you think you know. And then what he said was, yeah, I was there. But he chose to hang that up and become a part of the system to change and affect the next
Right.
person and teach the next person and teach the next person. So I think one of the ways we do it is to become actually a part of it, like Stacey showed, and say, okay, if one woman, a black woman, that which I love, changed an entire state
Right.
and made the country panic, imagine what happened if we educate the other ones. And now what she showed is now this little girl can look and say, wait a minute,
If
she
can
did
do
that, I can do it.
Right.
And now you have a vice president who now girls looking like, wait a minute, if she did it, now I can do it.
Right.
Right. So if we do that and we use that as the image, and then we teach our children, right, we become part of what we think we should be, and then teach them. So the more we change them and more we get them involved, now it's one of those, wait, we got to be panicking, because everything we said about them, they'll learn that they're not that.
Right.
They'll learn that they have more power than they imagine. Like, I have a family full of people that say votes don't count. And I'm like, are you serious? Did you not see what just happened?
Right.
Exactly.
I
So
mean,
you have
right.
to try it. And so once we get everybody involved to say, this is how the system works, this is where you need to become a part of it to affect the change. At that point, do we start seeing we're not trying to, change the foundation, because we can't. It's already there. But we definitely can build on top of it. Right?
But we can change the
Yeah,
foundation.
we can
you know.
repair it and patch the holes and
No, we can get rid
But-
of it.
We can reinforce.
We can completely. The Constitution is not the Bible. It is not,
not.
here to stay forever. We can get rid of it.
Come on, say it louder
You
for the
I
people in the
mean,
back.
like we gotta get rid of that thing. Like, the foundation of it was not built for us.
it wasn't. But when you look at things like the 14th, when that came about, and then off of that, they did 14th. The 14th kind of perfect example. Where that came was more for black men. It wasn't built
For black women.
for black women. It wasn't built for white women. It
Right.
was for black men. And then from there, they took those same fights and said, well, wait a minute. If that's for them, then why can't the white woman have rights? Because at that point, black women have rights either. And then from there, you use that language to say, wait, it says people. It don't say citizen. It actually says people. we're all people.
Right.
And they built off of that. And then everybody else started building. So like if we just take one seed and keep building and building after a while, the same way they built the pyramids, and they don't know how, they were looking the same way. Like, how did this happen?
Exactly.
And I think another part of the solution is we as a people, have to do our own self-reflection. We talk a lot about what other people can do and what they did wrong, but we still have to do some self-reflection on our own. So as you mentioned, we've had our own systems kind of built, and looking back, like, well, what happened in these situations. Even as we see the people are being hired, and there's CEOs of corporations and they're judges, and what is stopping you from bringing along others? Like, what is that? Where does that thinking come from, and how can we change that thinking so then we can all get on the same accord to build our own system and to build our new thing?
Right.
It's often frustrating to see how much sometimes we kind of self-sabotage the good things that are happening, and then wonder why we can't ever have nothing.
Yeah, right.
And so
Right.
and personally, I'm a self-reflective person anyway, and so I'm always figuring out what could I have done to make this better? What didn't I do? What did I say? And I think if we all kind of think about that, and even as a race and as a people, as a community, thinking about what happened, and then what can I do to make this better going forward? Because if we're going to build a new system, then we need to be like-minded in what that is and what that looks like. And though we don't have to have the exact same opinion, but we need to have the same kind of goal and the same foundation in us.
Right.
And I think that's the hard part of this, is that it's not just the external things, but it's the internal that we also need to work on to bring about the change. And we got to be willing to do that kind of self-reflection and being honest with ourselves. What are we doing inside?
Yeah. And that's where the work starts.
That's kind of where a lot of my thought process is, seeing how and why do we tear each other down? Why do I have to be the only one at the top? Why do I have to be the only one that shines? Why can't we shine as a group? That's the part I get it, but I still don't get it.
Yeah.
Because we as I think people should help wherever the help is needed. And I think it's a fair process, that if, you're the CEO, of such and such company, and then I come along, and you may think I'm just a little smarter than you, then you'll do everything to sabotage my position.
Right.
Because you want to be the only black person at the top.
Or you feel threatened. It is, I think it's an ego thing. It is, let me knock down or tear down anyone who might threaten my position or my authority, whether I'm deserving of it or not, in whatever situation. And so when I think about us building our own communities, I think that is a great thing, and I would love to see more of that. We have to get rid of ego and think of more of a, how can this be group love? How can you succeed and I root for you and you root for me, and we might have the same business, but we do them completely different. Right. And what I offer might be best for her, and what you offer might be best for him.
Right.
And we can still succeed.
Right.
That's the mindset we have to go into this.
Yeah. And that's that internal thought.
Right.
Like, why should it matter that Elder Beverly and I are different. Like, why does that even have to be a conversation?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we both check black.
Right, exactly.
Right? Like, it doesn't.
Right.
Why does that have to be a
Right.
thing? But it is.
Yeah.
But it is. And so again, just having that internal thoughts of, why am I making that a big deal? Why would I ever try to tear down a person that's darker than me, or that's smaller than me, or has shorter or longer hair than me? Like, why would I do that? What's in me that would cause me to do that to another person? Because that's supposed to be my sister. That's supposed to be my friend. She can represent me and I can represent her, because we're both black women.
Right.
So again, just going back to that internally, what do we need to do
Yeah.
to make it better, and then be the example of other people? I tell my kids all the time, you treat each other good, because people will see that, and so then they're going to treat you good.
Right.
Right? Like, I would tell my son, treat your sister good, respect her, talk to her nice. Don't, you don't hit her, you don't push her, you're not, making fun of her around your friends, because your friends think that that's okay to do. So if you talk to her with respect, you talk to me with respect, then everybody that's around you, that's how they're going to treat me too.
Right.
We as a people have to do the same thing. If I treat you with respect, then the others are going to treat you with respect too.
Right. We have our own circle of influence, and we have to use our own positions of privilege and whatever else we have that's been afforded to us by God to impact that. We're not going to answer those questions or have all the solutions in this one conversation, but this is an ongoing conversation. This is something that we have to constantly have, both within the church and even looking at contextually, what does the Bible say? Start looking deeper into what the text says about race, about color, about beauty, about standards, and ingraining that within our work and our daily lives. So thank you all for joining me again. I look forward to the next conversation, and have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.